The UK is a country that gives privileges to the privileged. Now, the topic of how foreigners resident in the UK are taxed isn't the most sexy topic. However, it's a fact that we're giving very rich foreigners massive tax breaks not available to UK citizens. And it gets worse. The right is generally against immigration at the moment. That is, unless they happen to be rich. In that case, their privileges are vigorously defended. I'm talking here about non-doms. Non-domiciled tax status, commonly referred to as nondom, is a unique aspect of the UK tax system that allows certain individuals who reside in the UK but claim that their domicile is outside the UK to be taxed in a preferential manner. Domicile is the country that a person considers to be their true home or has the closest ties to. Foreign domiciled nationals resident in Britain can earn money from capital abroad without paying UK tax on that income for up to 15 years. The income must be kept abroad. Tax is charged if it's remitted to the UK. On the other hand, UK residents are required to pay UK tax on their worldwide income and capital gains. There have been high-profile controversies around people claiming non-dom status. The most recent was Akshata Murty, the PM's wife. In 2022-23, she received a reported £13 million in annual dividends from her shares in the Indian IT services company Infosys. Now, if I had a company overseas that paid me £13 million in dividends, I would be taxed on that, even if I didn't bring it back into the UK. So there is a question over how fair it is that someone who may be living in the UK long term, for example the Prime Minister's wife, is able to get preferential treatment. Of course, the PM's wife did decide to pay tax on her overseas income once it became politically damaging for the Prime Minister. But according to the Office for National Statistics, there were still 68.8 thousand non-doms in the UK for the financial year ending 2022. To be balanced, we can acknowledge that these non-doms contributed £8.5 billion in income tax, capital gains tax and national insurance, so they did pay some tax. But is it fair that they have more favourable tax treatment than a British person? The rules surrounding non-dom status are complex and have been subject to various adjustments over the years. There was a big change to the rules in 2017, which did reduce the extent that people could benefit from this. For example, it set a maximum of 15 years, whereas previously it had been unlimited. But 15 years is still quite a generous concession, I think. For me, there's no doubt that this is a symbol of privilege. Rich people who come to live in Britain long term are able to operate outside the normal rules. So why does this exist? Is it just privileged people getting privileges? Well, not necessarily. Let's take a look at the economic arguments for and against this. There is an argument that it's good to have talented, high-worth individuals bringing their money into the UK. The system actually has colonial origins. In the late 18th century, William Pitt, the Prime Minister, introduced the UK's first income tax. For goods that were produced in the colonies, which were usually shipped to England, no tax was charged until the goods was actually sold in the UK. But is there a good argument for this in the 21st century? Some would argue that high net worth individuals investing in the economy, spending their money in the UK, paying tax on their UK income, that all of this is a good thing. If non-dom status was to be abolished, so the argument goes, these individuals that are valuable to the UK economy will leave. The right-wing press is often raising the concern that if we tax these wealthy foreigners, they'll leave the country. But then they also bemoan immigration. I find this hypocritical. It's an attitude of, we don't want immigrants in the UK unless you're super rich. I've got 2 points in response to this. First, on the evidence, the University of Warwick and the London School of Economics suggests that the view that non-doms will leave if they have to pay more tax doesn't seem to be true. This work found that the 2017 changes to the non-dom rules led to only modest emigration by non-doms. The people who left actually didn't have strong economic ties to the country. For example, they were unlikely to be working. These studies also found that in some cases, investment in the UK actually increased by the people who lost their non-dom status. The system actually creates an incentive for foreigners moving to the UK to keep their investments overseas. So overall, they found that abolishing non-dom status would actually generate £3.6 billion per year for the economy. So the right-wing claims that non-doms would leave the country doesn't seem to be true. The second point is that I think there are arguments for abolishing this privileged position, even if it would result in wealthy individuals leaving the UK. I start from a position of radical equality. I do believe that the harder you work, the more you should be rewarded. But I'm strongly against giving big privileges to the rich. It's just discriminatory and it just doesn't sit right with me. What kind of society are we encouraging? Of course, I'm not naive. This is capitalism, and the privileged don't want true equality, and they have the power to ensure that it doesn't happen. But the key truth here is that I don't think the privileged actually gain from this. Morally, ethically, even spiritually, living so selfishly hurts the selfish. For me, ending non-dom status is a no-brainer. The evidence is that people won't leave. And if they do, so what? Even if the country is poorer, I would prefer that to the massive inequality that we have in this country. Poverty and inequality for the poor, privileges for the rich. This is not the type of society that I want to live in. I hope you found this information useful. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing. I'd really appreciate that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.